It was a 5-day maternity leave. I feel like your body is not yours while you're pregnant. I have pumped in some places, man. I have pumped in the underbelly of stadiums, and then we ended up like losing that baby. You make the moments that you're there matter. Don't stop chasing your dream just because your life is evolving.
Welcome to Baby Bump and Business, the podcast for creative moms growing a baby and a brand at the same time. I'm your host, B. Troford Wilson, photographer, educator, and first-time mom to be, sharing the real unfiltered journey of pregnancy, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. Each week, I'll be joined by a fellow creative mom to talk about the beauty, the burnout, and the balance of it all. So let's get into it. Today's guest, we have Kara Durrette. Kara is a working mother with 2 boys, 9 and 4. She works full-time at their school in Raleigh, North Carolina as a marketing professional, along with working on the NFL Focus team as a professional sports photographer. She has spent 12 seasons covering the NFL, including one normal pregnant season and the COVID season pregnant. Kara, I'm so excited to be able to speak with you today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk all things like mom, sports,
Awesome.
babies.
I know that. Awesome. So let's just dive right into it. So you had your first son while you were the digital media producer for the Atlanta Falcons. What was that journey like working in sports and going through that pregnancy journey?
It was just really exciting. I was hoping to be a boy mom. And so I'll never forget the day that they called to tell me it was a boy, but I'll even back it up further from that, to the day that I got the call that I was actually pregnant. Um, and I was at this event with the team at a church, in downtown Atlanta. And I actually had to step out. It was a really emotional community event, with this church. And I stepped out and they were like, "Hey, we just wanted to tell you like you're pregnant." And I was so excited, but like you don't want to show your excitement either, right? So just from the start of that pregnancy, I always said that Dawson, who's my oldest son, was with me from training camp through to the Super Bowl that season. So um it was really, really special. Um
That's beautiful. And so going through training camp and going all the way through the Super Bowl, what was that like physically? You know, everyone's pregnancy is an experience. So what was that experience like balancing going through this new journey of pregnancy while your body's doing all these different things while working for this team?
it's just amazing. You have this whole team of support around you. And I just naturally was anxious for no reason, being pregnant for the first time. I was 20, I think I was 28 when I got pregnant with him. And obviously we work very, grueling hours. So the demand on our bodies when you work in sports is, you have grueling hours. There is a physical demand on your body. At that time, I was not a team photographer yet. I was still a digital media producer for the team. So my role was largely behind a desk. But on game days, we were still in the Georgia Dome at that time. So one of my duties on game day was to come from the press box down to the field as a card runner, because you think like, I don't feel that old, but you used to not be able to transmit images as quickly, like through, cables or whatever. So or wirelessly now, but we would run cards. So I was one of our card runners on game day. Um and because they knew I had a love for sports photography and evolving my career in that direction, I would take a camera too. So like in between picking up the carts, I would be allowed to like take a few pictures. I didn't have a vest on at that time. I mean, this is 12 years ago, right? Um 9 years, he's 9 now, but there's just a demand there. So going down all those steps, going back up the steps, the long hours of the days, as you know, these games, I mean, you show up at 8 in the morning or earlier for a 1 o'clock kickoff, and then you're there 3 hours after the game or more. Um, so it's demanding on your body for sure.
And how did you adjust to that? Was it hard for you? Was it one of those like, oh, like I know for me personally, it was a huge adjustment where I'm like, I'm out of breath and this is not normal.
Yeah. I was just thinking about you. You said you're what? How many weeks are you now?
34.
If you're sharing? Okay, 34. So yeah, by the time you go one side of the field to the other, you're like, oh my
I'm
gosh.
like,
Like, And I have this picture of me, our video team, a bunch of them are still there, shout out. They're the best in the game, in Atlanta. I didn't travel every single game, um, until I took on more of like a photo full-time role. And I was full-time as a digital media producer. That just wasn't, required of me to travel with the team all the time. But I would go to certain games. So I remember I went pregnant to Nashville and I was pregnant in Carolina. And for Carolina, our video team goes for all of our away games, they would go up to the top, like the very last seat in the stadium and get just like a general view for the highlight reel. And I just decided to go up and get a photo and just go with them when we were in Carolina and have a picture of me like climbing these like rails, just trying to get up to the top of the stadium. I forget how pregnant I was, but probably halfway. And you just really get out of breath easily.
Yeah, it's one of those. I remember after going visiting the doctor, I'm like, she's like, what are you experiencing? I'm telling her, she's like, oh yeah, you're pregnant, and I'm like, that doesn't help me. I'm like, is there anything I can do? She's like, no, that's pregnancy, and I'm like, I have to do this the entire year. Like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it is. That's what it is. So when you found out that you were pregnant, did you have any? I know for me personally, I did have some anxiety and fear of sharing with the teams that I work with and sharing with a lot of the organizations because I haven't seen a lot of women in this area or in this genre shooting still pregnant. Did you have any of those fears or concerns with sharing with the team? And how did you even prepare for your maternity leave, knowing that you're working for a professional sports team?
So, yeah, I think we all, as mothers, just in general, working mothers, there is that like, I have this role needs to be done. And if I'm not doing it, who's going to be doing it? What does that look like? Um, and then we have like busy seasons and less busy seasons. Football is always busy, but you know what I mean? So in terms of like planning a pregnancy, if you're blessed enough to be able, to have that thought and work out, was like, okay, I want to have this baby in the off season. And with Dawson, we were absolutely blessed that happened for us. And I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to tell anybody until I felt better about being pregnant and like that I wasn't going to lose the baby or, however that might go. So when you're trying to like think about planning a baby and you work in sports and you might think that you want to plan it around the season or whatever, obviously pregnancies don't always work that way. You can't always plan it perfectly. But in our case, like we were blessed with Dawson to be able to have an off season baby. He was due in March. Um, and that was just my hope, was to not have a baby in season where I would have to like split the season up in half. And then I remember, I mean, you have all these amazing, I didn't want to tell people for a long time, just, you don't know how to be pregnant the first time. It's such a learning curve for everybody. Nobody's ever done it until they've done it. And I think I was like 16 weeks when I told the team, maybe 12, but I was like pretty far along. And I told them, and then we kind of started making a plan there from like talking to HR, talking to our employee resources. And at that time, and keep in mind, this is a long time ago, it was a 5-day maternity leave policy. And then you would
Five
use like,
days?
yeah, yeah. So it was like 5-day paid leave for women. And then the rest would be FMLA or your vacation or like whatever you wanted to use. Um, so that's going into March 2016. And then I worked up until I have such a vivid memory of us. We were in the free agency at that point, and we were signing Mohamed Sanu, who's like one of my favorite Falcons of all time. And he, we were signing him, and he looked at me like, like, you are still showing up here. So that was my first memory of Mohamed Sanu. Ended up being a great player for us, and a great person and a father himself. Then I went to the doctor. I remember texting my supervisor at that time and a couple people on our digital team and just saying like, hey, I'm going to this appointment. And if I get the green light, I'm going to come back to work. And it was a Monday. I did not get the green light to come back to work. So they actually sent me in to be induced right from that appointment. And we had a baby.
How many weeks were you at that point?
I was 40 weeks.
Okay,
So it was like time to go. But I still
gotcha.
thought I was like, I'm coming back
I'm
because you don't want to. If you have only 5 days, you don't want to waste one of them.
right.
Um,
For
you know,
5 days,
without the baby.
I still can't wrap my head around the 5 days. That's not even a week.
I know.
Oh wow. So how
So it's like,
so after having your child, how many days were you actually able to take off with the FMLA and all those different weeks? How much time did you take off before jumping back in?
so with Dawson, I did take the full FMLA. I took 12 weeks. So the 5 weeks were complete, or the 5 days were totally paid. And then I took, the whatever 11 weeks at whatever FMLA is 60% or whatever they give to families for that. I don't think that's changed. Um, and I just by nature, I'm not able to stay away. So did I show up for the draft? I did. um, did I show up for mini camp? I'm not saying I did or I didn't. I'm just saying I have a
I
hard
did.
time staying away. So
And
it
I think it's hard, especially when you love what you do, and I think even for me and even other women who I've spoken to, where like I'm telling my mom, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I enjoy shooting. I love shooting sports. And it's like, if I physically can still move and waddle, I think I'm fine,
yeah.
Awesome. So going from having your first to your second, what was that transition like now that you were able to step into this new journey of motherhood and now you're balancing this new journey and this new life into your life? How was that transition while preparing for having another child?
So Dawson's 2016. And I just want to touch it again on like, yes, when you love what you do and you love the people that you're around, there was nothing like, I mean, you can ask anybody. We had the team of all teams going into that Super Bowl and after, not just on the field, but off of the field. I mean, it was the best people you could ever meet or have ever worked with. It was all-star cast, like all around. And you want to be around that energy. Like it's people that lift you up. It's people that love my baby as much as I did before he was even born. And to this day, it's like it was such an all-star experience to work for and be a part of. The coaching staff, everybody was just like gold. So yes, you want to be around it. And then we, came out of 2016. You guys know what happened with Super Bowl. We had to go straight into the next season. So now, man, time flies when you work in sports too. It's like you blink and you're on to the next season. And I knew that I didn't want back-to-back children because like you start breastfeeding, like if you do or don't, I fed his best, but like I chose to breastfeed Dawson and Shepherd while trying to work in sports. And so I feel like your body is not yours while you're pregnant. Then you have this baby and then you're pumping and like your body is not yours because you're feeding this baby. And so I never felt ready during that journey to like have another baby, even though we knew we wanted another. Um, I have pumped in some places, man. I have pumped in the underbelly of stadiums that you would not believe. We had to play in I feel like we were playing the Dolphins, but they were building their stadium or renewing their state or remodeling their stadium. So we had to play in like Orlando. Does that sound right? And it was like hot, hot, hot. And the media doesn't always have bathrooms available to like, especially not for women all the time. There certainly at that time was not pumping rooms and mom's rooms like there are now. So I would be in this like, I just remember the stadium and it was like off of, it was like behind where the media workroom was, no air conditioning. And you have to pump for 30 minutes at a time. Like you're supposed to each side, whatever. Um, and I'm like sweating, like it's August, it's preseason. I'm just like sweating in this like bathroom. Um, and then you finish and you put it in like whatever you have. So, uh, thankfully my child was always safe, but you have these coolers and you just like hope it's good enough. Right. Um, and it just has to get you home from the game. So typically the team will do the game. You come home that day. Sometimes in the preseason, you'll go spend the week and come home. And I have some stories about that too. But in terms of like pumping on the road and like, our logistics guy who's still there, shout out to Brandon Ruth. He is phenomenal, best in the business, always made sure I had a refrigerator in my room. At this point, I'm like traveling more with the team by the time I was pumping. Um, yes. So I think that was the summer that I transitioned into the photo role too. So it's like I had my son, went from digital media producer into photography manager for AMBSE. So Brandon was really great about always making sure I had like refrigerators because every hotel we stayed in didn't have refrigerators. You're taking the cooler on the road. Like when we flew from Seattle, we had a night game in Seattle and we were flying back to Atlanta. We didn't land till like 4 in the morning or something insane. And I'm sitting there like all I had was a hand pump at that time because like what do you do? So I'm like hand pumping on this plane. It's a journey as a mother in sports, and we're all just doing the best we can, but it takes the village around you to like understand what you're going through, even if they don't always understand and lift you up. So then to answer your question, after getting through breastfeeding in like 2017, we were like, okay, maybe we want Dawson to be like 4, like have a 4-year age gap. And so we had actually tried to have another child going into the 2019 season. And then, I mean, it was really hard. We had more changes between, 27, 2019 to where my role had then branched off. We had made the case to create more roles out of just I was one person. So we had a creative director and then we had my role, so photo manager for the AMBSE sports properties slash like digital team photographer specifically for the Falcons. And that kind of became a team photographer at Atlanta United. It became a team photographer for the Falcons. It became an actual photo manager over all these roles and a digital asset manager. And then we actually got a photo intern. So all of a sudden we were really like creating a photo department for the first time. So that was very stressful. I actually became the team photographer at that point by title for the Falcons as Jimmy Cribb was kind of retiring. Um, and I don't, it was just, we were covering the Hall of Fame game. If you don't know how that looks, and this isn't so much about motherhood, but you're leaving your children to go on these trips that are dreams come true. Like every single thing about being able to do it is what you've always wanted and what you've always worked for. Um, for my son Dawson, like it was all he knew. So at this point, he's 3. He understood like mommy goes on trips for work. But in particular that off season was so difficult just in terms of time because you go if you've ever covered the Hall of Fame game or if you ever hope to cover the Hall of Fame game, you go and you cover the game, and then if you're lucky enough to have a player who's getting a gold jacket and entering the Hall of Fame, you're going to cover the gold jacket dinner, and then you're going to cover at the enshrinement ceremony in some order. Like that's kind of how that works. And every night is like later than the last in terms of your hours working. And then I covered the ceremony. I landed at the airport at like 8:30 on Sunday morning. Keep in mind, all this stuff usually happens in August. And during like training camp preseason, I went straight to the stadium uh, for our stadium practice for our fans. So typically the way that things would go is the fans would go out to Flowery Branch and they'd watch from the hill. This particular event is like a free event for fans and they would come and they would watch at the stadium and you work that whole day. So then it was like 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and I get back in my car, drive home, like exhausted. I called my husband. I'm like, hey, you're gonna have to like get me home. I'm so tired. Um, and then we ended up like losing that baby. I didn't even know during all of that I was pregnant. But it's just a lot of demand on your body, and the doctors will tell you, they're like, no, you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Like your work schedule didn't cause this loss. Um, but as a mother and like as a person who's putting that strain on themselves, you're like, but did it? Like, are we sure?
Right.
um, so that was in between Dawson and Shepherd. And then it's like, okay, well, now what? Because like we had kind of tried to time it again for like an off season situation. And now like everything you read is contradicting the last thing you read about when to have the baby after a loss, when to try again after a loss. You know, your body is recovering because it had a pregnancy, right? Um, and then do you tell your team, like, who do you tell that this has happened? Um, we were supposed to fly again um, for another preseason game. So all this happened like kind of quickly, like between me finding out, like me losing the baby. I was, thank goodness, like very early. But we were going to this preseason game, and I ended up telling my like management, and they were like, no, like at this point, the Falcons had hired some really great female leaders, and she was able to share her experiences with me, make me feel better about like not jumping on the plane going through this, because I would have, and so that was really helpful. Like women in sports, helping women in sports. That's the same person who changed and was, thank goodness, heard by other peers in leadership that the maternity leave policy needed to change. So she made it 12. I don't know what it is now for them, but it was like 12 weeks paid by the time I had my second son.
Beautiful.
So that was huge. Yeah. And
Wow.
then we waited a year before we, had Shepherd. And at that point, COVID had like started. We were all locked down, and it was like, at this point, does it matter if it's a season baby or not? No.
Right. So let's go a little bit back. Thank you for sharing all of that and being so transparent and so vulnerable. Because I'm not, I know this isn't a really comfortable conversation to have all the time. Um, and even what a lot of people don't know, I actually experienced a miscarriage last year. So going into like having that same mindset and mentality where it's like the doctors are like, there's nothing you can do, and it's like, but was it me? Like I was still doing a lot, but being able to still have like that comfort and having peers that you can speak to, which reminded you, for me, like personally being able to speak with someone and know that I wasn't alone in this journey and that it does surprisingly happen to a lot of women and we just don't share about it, has definitely helped me going back into this new process and this new journey. But it's so beautiful to see how many people how you were able to find someone to actually help advocate for you as well, because that's definitely important, especially as we continue to grow in this industry, as well as more women being in this industry and more stories being told in this industry. It takes a lot for us to have to share to see change. And it's good to see that how much change has been able to happen from your first child to your second child. And even probably moving even now, I'm sure that there's so many things that have continued to change because you've helped set that, you helped trailblaze that, because I really don't remember seeing a teen photographer pregnant, and being able to hear from you. It's like, this is the person who we need on billboards to speak for us, who's experienced it, who's done all those things. But what has that even in terms of balancing traveling and having, I know a lot of women speak about guilt, having like that guilt of having to travel for work and being away from your child in that process, especially with it being such a new process. How were you able to balance mentally and emotionally, still loving what you were doing for your job, but still knowing that you can still be present by just finding that balance at home to be present?
So my role now and the way that life is for me now is beautiful. It's anything you could have ever hoped for. I'm able to be with my children often. I work where they are every day. I take them to school every day. And on the weekends, I do still leave for 6 months out of the year. And that can be for 2 days over the weekend. It can be for one day. Um, Philip, my youngest son now is 4, and he will ask maybe more than my older son, like, oh, you have to leave again? Like, what's that about? But the best advice that I got about that was actually from Matt Ryan's dad. So I was standing, I think, again in Carolina, um, and he was there. Um, and I was telling him about how I was starting to notice, like my son at that point, I can't remember what year it was and how old he was, but I was like, he's starting to notice like mommy's gone. And he was like, that's going to happen. Like you're chasing a dream, you're a working woman, like you're going out and making this happen for your family. It's not just for you. Like this is creating opportunity for your whole family. But he was like, the important thing, and this was the advice, the other part, is essentially what he said, but the advice from him was that you make the moments that you're there matter. And it's like, yeah, that's what it's all about. It's like, yes, I'm going to go chase these dreams. And I want you to see that mommy is hardworking and passionate and like a go-getter. And I want you to know that when I'm with you, I'm with you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I know when I first started telling people that I was pregnant, a lot of, surprisingly, mostly men, not women, were like, "So are you going to stop shooting sports now?" And I'm like, "Why would I stop? I'm like, I spent so many years creating my business and creating my brand. Why does a child have to stop that?" And it's crazy to think that so many people think that chasing your dreams and chasing your goals has to be paused or halted because now you're starting a family, not realizing that you can still have the best of both worlds is just creating that for you and being able to get advice like that. I think that that's something I'm definitely gonna have to put on my wall somewhere. Like make those moments matter, make those moments count because I don't think I'm gonna stop traveling now. It's like, no, now I just have to work out the schedule with my husband. We have to figure out what that's going to look like. And we can still have the life and still chase the dreams and chase the goals that we still have while like you said, showing your children that you are hardworking, that you can still chase goals, you can still pivot and do all these things as well.
Yeah. My parents, so now that we're in Raleigh, this is where I grew up, and my parents are still here. You absolutely, as a woman or as a man, if you're raising these children and you're on the road, maybe more so as a woman, but like you got to have that family support, that village. It doesn't have to be blood family, but like it has to be somebody that has your back, that is helping you when you can't be there. And for me, that's my parents, and I say like they know where I'm going, like they understand that I'm doing this stuff. And Dawson's getting to the point where he's starting to play flag football, um, and understanding football. But my mom said that they found me at one of these preseason games a couple weeks ago on TV, and she like saved it and showed it to him, and she said he just like lit up. And it's like, okay, so now I'm starting to become cool, but it just took a while to get there.
Right. I feel like we always hear those stories where it's like, as a parent, sometimes you're cool, sometimes you're not. It's like, what is the moment where it's like, oh, my parent is actually cool, So that's awesome. But that's beautiful. So in terms of once you going through COVID pregnant, what was that like?
So that, well, first of all, it was really scary again because we had lost someone. So then it was like, oh my gosh, like this, I don't want to go through that again. And we're in COVID, so like it's extra scary. Dawson was in preschool and we were still sending him for the most part. After that's such a blur of a time period for everyone. But I just remember all those were fears. Like my husband was going into the office, my child was going into daycare. Georgia didn't have like super strict regulations. Um, and on the team side, I think I found out probably right around minicamp. Um, and so shooting player arrivals, like shooting, whatever it was that we needed to do that we were allowed to do. We weren't in the building at that time unless you had like a special, like permission. So my department was actually working from home I was at my house from March 2020 until June 2021. And like,
Wow.
just that's just how that happened for me. So it was just a wild time. And I actually ended up telling everyone earlier. I told them about 8 weeks because I knew they were planning for the season, and I wanted to ask for permission to not travel because I didn't want to be on the team plane with all the COVID and like the risk while being pregnant. And they absolutely heard me. I did not have to travel. We ended up working with freelancers who would either travel with the plane or meet us where we were, um, throughout the country. And I edited. And then I covered practices, like I covered training camps because the league, we had these bracelets that we would wear at that time. And if you got within 6 feet of other people wearing the bracelet, they would go off.
Wow.
Yeah, and you would like put your it was like a little tracker, you would put it back in its charging port every day, but then if there were exposures or if there were um illnesses, they would know who was near each other so we could kind of contain the problem. It's
Wow, very
fascinating.
advanced. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
it's good to see that there were a lot of precautions in that area. I didn't even know that that was something that was done.
Yeah. So I felt super safe. Like I was like, I'm at the safest possible place I can be,
Right.
going through this. Whether that was a perceived safeness or whether it was really safe, not, I don't know if what do you even do now with COVID? But at that time, I never got sick. My family didn't get sick. So I felt like the Falcons handled it extremely well. Um, and that was just kind of how things were. And end of the day he was born, and I have such like fond memories of all of my time there. Particularly, and I've shared about this like on my Instagram page, but like Coach Knapp, um, would and other coaches, but like specifically him, he was just wonderful. And he would like come up to me and ask, like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? He's a father. Um, and told him it was like a playoff baby. And he's like, oh, my wife would have never let me do that. And sure enough, like I'm delivering Shepherd and we're watching the Saints lose on on in the delivery room. So COVID, and then like we never saw a doctor at all. I was delivered by a midwife in the hospital. The doctor called me on the phone in the recovery room and was just like, "You good?" And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
"Yeah, yeah, we're good." Um, and then so with Dawson, I didn't leave my room when I delivered him, and with, and I felt like I missed that experience of like seeing him behind the glass, like with all the other babies. So with Shepherd, I let them take him to the nursery and I got up to like go get that picture of him behind the glass. It was it was like dystopian. He was the only one in an empty room. Like I don't know. And then behind us there was a door that was like all red and like don't come in here. I was like, David, let's get out of here because it was just so different and locked down. Um, so that was a COVID pregnancy. It was
Oh
different.
man. That sounds, I feel like there's still so many COVID stories that we have not heard, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Oh man. So going from having your first to now having your second post-COVID and going from being like that team photographer and then transitioning to Raleigh, what would you say was the biggest adjustment that you had to make um being now a mother of two and trying to balance this whole new world again?
Yeah. Let me think. So like I said, I got the 12 weeks paid with Shepherd. And then I chose because they have like really great benefits. One of the best things about the AMBSE is their benefits for their employees. Um, and so I actually took, because I had been there for more than 7 years or something like that, I had a good bit of vacation. So I chose to use an extra 4 weeks of vacation. So I took 16 weeks off with Shep, came back in time for, I think, mini camp, planning, going into training camp, media days, all those things. So now I've got two little babies. Dawson was very sick as a baby. Dawson was so sick. He was actually born with a condition called Poland syndrome. He was like 7 days old and getting ultrasounds done. He has a limb difference. So that Seattle trip that I flew out for, he actually had a surgery at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta to have his finger separated for the first time. And then right before the Super Bowl or right after the Super Bowl, he had a second surgery to have the other side separated. So it was just like a very traumatic year of like, I've had this baby and he's not perfect. He is perfect. Um, but it was just overwhelming of like, oh my gosh. And the team the whole time was, we've got you. Like, go to that appointment. It's okay. Like, you don't have to. Seattle, I was supposed to be there for the whole week. And I actually ended up helping hire who was one of my great friends and on the NFL Focus team now, Alika Jenner. So that's actually how we met, is we hired him to fill my role while I was trying to be there for my child going through this surgery. So then having the second child, it's like, are you sure he's healthy? Are you like, and Dawson's heart is like flipped backwards. So I kept asking him at the ultrasounds, I'm like, is his heart in the right direction? Um, and so Shepherd comes out and is like comparatively an easy baby. Like he's healthy, he's growing, he's on track. Like it was just so different. And then to have that extended amount of time with him that was just for him was like such a blessing. Um, Came back, did media day, did training camp. COVID, I would say COVID was my decision to move ultimately. Like I had started putting feelers out right when I went back to work. I was like, this feels different. We don't have a village. I have two babies now. Um, and so then to end up with the Carolina Hurricanes, which was my favorite team growing up, and to work with the great Dan LaTaraka, um, and that whole team there, Matt Suter, like Logan Wheelis, all those people, and Mac Friedman, who I love. Anyway, the Canes have such an well-known and just rock star social media team, who also, like Matt, who was my manager there, Dan, their parents, which was not something I had as much of in Atlanta. Like people around me weren't also parents. So then navigating going to Raleigh, it was like, okay, I'm working for two men who are also fathers and are very involved fathers. And that was very helpful. And I was right here with my family. I stayed at the Hurricanes for a year and started thinking about like, well, we had enrolled my, I don't know if like what part of the story is helpful to you or not. But we had enrolled my son in this school that's an independent school. So there's like not really a bus service, um, that, that fits for my family's needs, right? Me and my husband both work till 5:30. So even if we use the provided bus service, we couldn't get to him in time. Like it would drop off at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. So I was like, can we make my schedule flexible? Like, what does that look like? Um, Shepherd's daycare it got out at 1 o'clock and my mom had been helping us. And ultimately I was like, David's my husband. I was like, I think I'm gonna have to freelance. Like, I think we're just gonna have to figure something out to where this school, which is the best possible opportunity for my children, is what's gonna work. Um, and then a job opened up here. And David was like, Kara, you just need to work at the school. And I was like, those jobs don't open up. It's like a team where it's very, people stay here forever because it's amazing. Um, it's a dream because you have at sports. We have like so many sports teams. You're around children. It's joyous. It, anyway, it's just a great job and it doesn't open up. And David sent me the link that night. And I was like, okay.
Perfect.
So this is my fourth year here. And the boys are both here now.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, for any woman who is in my shoes or plan to be in this transition of, working in sports and start wanting to plan motherhood, what is a piece of advice or some advice that you think that they should hear that you have learned from your experience?
Man, girl, I love to talk and now I don't know what to say. Because what advice would I give? Okay. Well, I have multiple pieces of advice, maybe. Specifically for mothers, it would be to don't stop chasing your dream just because your life is evolving. I think I saw a reel this week that was like, keep in mind we may be mothers, but we're also living life for the first time too. And I thought that was such a good reel because such a good message because it's true. Like this is also, we're still us. And I have this thing on my fridge that's like, you can be a hot mess and a good mom. Like both are allowed. You can be more than one thing. You can be an amazing photographer and a good mom. You can be a good wife and a good mom. Like you can, more than one thing can be true. And then just for like women in sports is, um, because there may be girls that want to be mothers that aren't mothers, but work in sports and sports are so demanding that it may be hard to meet that person that like then you would marry, then you would, right? Is that have to like you have to separate yourself from say I am an NFL focused photographer. No, I'm not. I'm Kara. Like, I'm Kara, and this is a role that eventually will be passed on to somebody else. Like, your title is borrowed. So don't make your entire self this. And it's very easy to be like, let me give 90 hours of my week to this. When at the end of the day, it's you. Like, give some of yourself to give your best effort, but don't like your life is going to go so fast. And especially if you want to like have that next step with a fiance, with a baby, with whatever it is, maybe you want to have a baby on your own. But if you keep saying not yet to that, then like you're missing opportunities in life that you would otherwise have because you're giving it all to that one thing.
I love that. I love that. That the you're not just the title. You're not just your work title. And I think I know a lot of women who I've spoken to have said don't lose your identity of just of now that you're a mother, that that's all you are, and remembering who you are, making time to still pour into yourself, to still love on yourself, to remember who you were before, and although you are transitioning and evolving into this new being, to still make that time for yourself, to still make that time to love on yourself, to cherish yourself, to pat yourself on the back for what you're trying to accomplish or what you are accomplishing. So that's amazing advice. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, this conversation has been so helpful. I've learned a lot in this. But again, Kara, thank you so much for just being so honest, for being so open, for being so vulnerable, for sharing your story. And I know that this has helped me, and I know it's going to help so many other amazing women out there. So thank you again, Kara, for sharing with us today.
Yes, thank you so much and good luck. You're going to be a great mom.
Thank you, thank you. And have a great one and good luck on or have a great season this year. I know
Thank you.
the season's about to start. I did two preseason games and then they have me down for a game in November. I'm doing October. And I'm like, yeah, put me in down for November. I was like, yeah, just put me on a slight hold in case I feel good.
And I saw some awesome Top Cat work coming out.
Yes, yes. Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
so good.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again, Kara, so much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Baby Bump and Business. I hope today's conversation reminded you that you're not alone on this journey and that there's so much power in building something beautiful while becoming someone new. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, review, or share this with another mama or creative who needs the encouragement. Your support helps this community grow and lets more stories like ours be heard. To stay connected and get updates on new episodes and real talk from creative moms like you, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Baby Bump and Business. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and give yourself the grace that you deserve.